Welcome to English Empire. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We are very happy to have you here. Today, Raman and Roz are going to teach you an important and very useful English expression, would rather. This expression is common in daily English, and if you learn how to use it correctly, your English will sound more natural and more confident. By the end of this lesson, you will understand how to use would rather, how it is different from similar expressions, and how to make correct sentences in real life.
What does would rather mean? Would rather means to prefer one thing or action over another. It shows choice. For example, I would rather stay home. She would rather drink tea. We would rather go tomorrow. In all of these sentences, the speaker is showing a preference. So if I say, I would rather read, it means I prefer to read. That is the main idea. Yes, exactly. And in spoken English, would rather is very common because it sounds natural and smooth. We often use the short form, I'd rather, you'd rather, he'd rather, she'd rather, we'd rather, they'd rather. Examples, I'd rather sleep now. She'd rather study at home. They'd rather wait. This is how native speakers often say it in conversation.
1. Basic structure of would rather. Now let's look at the structure. The basic pattern is subject plus would rather plus base verb. Examples: I would rather stay. He would rather leave. We would rather eat at home. She would rather study alone. Notice something very important. After would rather, we use the base form of the verb. Correct. I would rather go. She would rather eat. They would rather wait. Incorrect. I would rather to go. She would rather eating. They would rather went. So please remember this rule. Would rather plus base verb, not to plus verb, not verb plus ing.
Let me give you a few more easy examples. I'd rather walk. He'd rather drive. We'd rather start early. She'd rather not talk now. These are short, natural, and very common in English.
2. Using would rather to talk about your own preference. We use would rather when we want to say what we prefer. Examples: I would rather stay home tonight. I would rather watch a movie. I would rather study English now. I would rather eat rice than pasta. These sentences are useful in daily life. For example, at home, I'd rather rest today. With friends, I'd rather go somewhere quiet. At work, I'd rather finish this task first. In class, I'd rather ask now than stay confused. So, when you want to say, this is my preference, you can use would rather.
And this expression often sounds a little more personal and natural than just saying prefer. Compare, I prefer to stay home. I'd rather stay home. Both are correct, but I'd rather stay home sounds more conversational.
3. Using would rather than. Now let's learn a very common pattern. Would rather plus base verb plus than plus base verb. This means you prefer one action over another action. Examples: I would rather stay home than go out. She would rather read than watch TV. We would rather cook than order food. He would rather walk than take a taxi. This pattern is very useful because it shows both choices clearly. More examples: I'd rather sleep than study right now. They'd rather save money than waste it. She'd rather work alone than in a big group. We'd rather leave now than arrive late.
Be careful here too. After than, we usually also use the base verb correct. I'd rather eat than wait. She'd rather call than text. Incorrect. I'd rather eat than waiting. She'd rather call than to text. So keep the structure simple. Would rather plus verb plus than plus verb.
4. Negative form, would rather not. Sometimes we want to say what we do not prefer. For that, we use would rather not plus base verb. Examples: I would rather not go. She would rather not answer. We would rather not stay too long. He would rather not discuss it now. This means the speaker prefers not to do something. Examples in real life: I'd rather not drive at night. She'd rather not eat spicy food. We'd rather not be late. He'd rather not join the meeting.
This form is polite and useful. For example, I'd rather not say. I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather not go there today. These sound softer than a direct no.
5. Would rather for another person. Now we come to an important part. If I talk about my own preference, the structure is simple. I'd rather go. She'd rather stay. But if I want to say that I want another person to do something, the structure changes. We use subject plus would rather plus person plus past simple. Examples: I would rather you stayed home. She would rather he came later. We would rather they didn't tell anyone. He would rather I called tomorrow. This may look strange at first, but it is correct.
Yes, and many learners make mistakes here. They say, I would rather you stay home. In everyday speech, some people may say this, but the standard grammar pattern is, I'd rather you stayed home. Why do we use past simple here? Because this structure is similar to unreal or less direct expressions in English. It does not always mean past time. It expresses preference about the present or future. Examples: I'd rather you sat here. She'd rather he waited outside. We'd rather you came earlier tomorrow. I'd rather they didn't ask so many questions. So remember this carefully. My own action, I'd rather go. Another person's action, I'd rather you went. That difference is very important.
6. Examples with another person. Let's practice this more. I'd rather you called me tonight. She'd rather we finished the work now. They'd rather he didn't drive alone. We'd rather you brought your notes tomorrow. These sentences mean, this is what I prefer another person to do. And for negative sentences, I'd rather you didn't smoke here. She'd rather he didn't speak so loudly. We'd rather they didn't arrive too late. He'd rather I didn't mention it. These are very common and useful in polite English. For example, I'd rather you didn't touch that. I'd rather you didn't interrupt me. I'd rather you came with us. This is also very common in speaking games and conversations. For example, would you rather be rich or famous? Would you rather travel the world or stay close to family? Would you rather read a book or watch a film? These questions are great for speaking practice. Now let's compare would rather and prefer. Both talk about liking one thing more than another. Prefer. I prefer tea. I prefer walking to driving. I prefer to stay home. Would rather. I'd rather drink tea. I'd rather walk than drive. I'd rather stay home. Both are correct, but there is a small difference. Would rather often sounds more immediate, personal, and conversational. Prefer can sound a little more general. Compare. I prefer tea to coffee. This sounds like a general preference. I'd rather have tea. This sounds like a choice now, in this moment. Let's make that easier. General preference. I prefer quiet places. Choice now, I'd rather sit somewhere quiet.
So prefer is often more general, and would rather is often more about a situation or choice.
9. Difference between would rather and had better. These two expressions are also different. Would rather shows preference. I'd rather stay home. Had better shows strong advice or warning. You'd better stay home. Look at the difference. I'd rather stay home. This means that is my preference. You'd better stay home. This means it is a good idea, maybe necessary, so do not mix them.
Here are two more examples. I'd rather leave now. Preference. We'd better leave now. Advice, maybe because something bad can happen if we stay. Very different meanings.
10. Common mistakes. Let's look at mistakes learners often make. Mistake 1. Using to after would rather. Incorrect. I'd rather to go. Correct. I'd rather go. Mistake 2. Using ing after would rather. Incorrect. She'd rather going home. Correct. She'd rather go home. Mistake 3. Wrong structure for another person. Incorrect. I'd rather you go now. Better standard form. I'd rather you went now. Mistake 4. Using prefer structure with would rather. Incorrect. I'd rather tea to coffee. Correct. I prefer tea to coffee. Or, I'd rather have tea than coffee.
Very good. Let me add one more. Mistake 5. Forgetting than. Incorrect. I'd rather stay home, go out. Correct. I'd rather stay home than go out. So always check the structure carefully.
11. Useful daily examples. Now let's see real-life examples. At home. I'd rather cook tonight. I'd rather not watch TV. I'd rather you cleaned your room first. At work. I'd rather send the email tomorrow. She'd rather we finished this today. I'd rather not have that meeting now. With friends. I'd rather go somewhere quiet. Would you rather eat inside or outside? I'd rather you came with us. In study. I'd rather study in the morning. He'd rather work alone. We'd rather not delay the exam.
And here are some short, natural speaking lines. I'd rather not. I'd rather wait. I'd rather go later. I'd rather stay here. I'd rather you didn't do that. Would you rather sit here? These are very useful in everyday English.
12. Mini conversation. Let's do a short conversation. Would you rather study now or later?
I'd rather study now.
Would you rather study at home or in a library?
I'd rather study in a library.
Would you rather study alone or with friends?
I'd rather study alone.
This shows how natural the expression is.
Here is another one. Do you want me to call him now?
I'd rather you waited a little.
Okay. Would you rather I called him tonight?
Yes, I'd rather you called him tonight. That is how we use it with another person. 13. Practice sentences. Repeat these sentences. I'd rather stay home. I'd rather drink tea than coffee. I'd rather not go out tonight. I'd rather you came early. I'd rather you didn't tell anyone. Would you rather walk or drive? Practice them many times.
Now try making your own sentences. I'd rather blank. I'd rather blank than blank. I'd rather not blank. I'd rather you blank. I'd rather you didn't blank. Would you rather blank or blank? This is the best way to remember.
14. Final summary. Let's review the main points. Use would rather to show preference. Structure 1. Your own action. Subject plus would rather plus base verb. Example: I'd rather stay home. Structure 2. Comparing two actions. Subject plus would rather plus base verb plus than plus base verb. Example: I'd rather stay home than go out. Structure 3. Negative. Subject plus would rather not plus base verb. Example: I'd rather not argue. Structure 4. Another person. Subject plus would rather plus person plus past simple. Example: I'd rather you stayed home.
And remember these key rules. Do not use to after would rather. Do not use ing after would rather. Use past simple when talking about another person. Use it to sound natural in spoken English.
So, would rather is a very useful expression for daily English. It helps you talk about your choices, preferences, and what you want other people to do.
If you practice this expression, your English will sound smoother, more natural, and more confident.
Thank you for learning with us on English Empire. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. In the comments, write one sentence with "I'd rather" and one sentence with "I'd rather you." See you in the next lesson.